We've had issues between the president and his vice. We went to the 2010 constitution. We had an issue with the president and his deputy. And it's because everyone has those political ambitions. They want to succeed. We had even Kenyatta and Jaramogi. You do remember we had the likes of Murumbi, who they had a love-hate relationship as the vice president, and some even had to step down. And the same has come about when we talk about the just impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Are we likely to see something different from KITHURE Kindiki, who has been an academia and a politician as well?
Well, the reason as to why Gachagua has been removed is not because he demonstrated any ambition, unless that is what we have not been told.
You're behind the curtains.
Probably that is behind the curtain. But the reason why Gachagua has been removed is because of inviting divisive politics within the government. In terms of the question of people being removed, it is probably not just because of looking like you want to replace your boss, but probably looking like you are bringing your overriding interests that override the interest of the president or the country. I think that is what makes some of these people feel like the president is not respecting me, despite me being his assistant, and my interests are not being looked at. Because, for example, if you're a deputy president or a vice president for that matter, the people behind you, the constituency that supports you, the political base that has pushed you to where you are today, the demands that they expect you to meet are quite high. They don't expect you to solve small problems anymore. And therefore, sometimes those problems, you may want the president to put his hand and assist you. And when the president does not help you, you want to exercise the authority that comes with the office of the deputy president. And in exercising that authority, you may clash with a few people in here who are very close to the president. And the president probably listens to them more than even listens to you. So that brings that whole conflict that ends up showing a lot of deputy presidents being kicked out. Not because they wanted to be president, but because they also have now vested political interest, which may not include being president, but just making sure that where they come from, things are okay. Because at the end of the day, you are in that office because you bring something. KITHURE Kindiki has been brought to probably say Mount Kenya is Mount Kenya East and Mount Kenya West. Even if I don't get the entire Mount Kenya, can I get East? So he must make sure that the East is happy as KITHURE Kindiki. As he tries to reach out to the West, he must make sure that the East is happy. So the issues of Mira, for example, where are we with Mira? The issue of schools in those areas, the issue of water, the issue of food security in those areas. When you want to address these issues, and somebody, a very junior person in ranking in the office of the president, is interfering with you, you will now ask yourself, is the president supporting me or supporting his buddies? So that is where the problem comes in. So sometimes it's not necessarily ambition, but ambition is there. Kindiki, we cannot say he's not an ambitious person. From being a lecturer, he became the senator, became the deputy speaker, and the time he was not nominated to be the deputy president candidate, he disappeared for 3 days and even made a presser saying that clearly showed he was not happy because he had already planted the seed of ambition. He was sure that he will be the deputy president of Kenya come 2022 if they had won that election then, which they did, and he was not. So therefore, he already had shown that he's an ambitious man. To what extent now, what other ambition he will have now, we don't know. But definitely, every man is an ambitious person. Any politician is an ambitious person.
And I will still go back to some of the sentiments that we've had, and because this is a two-sided coin. Either way, whether the deputy president was impeached or not, it changes and it will change the political landscape in the country. What are we likely to see in terms of politics? Because Kenya is one of the countries where after an election, we just need 1 year to go back to the election mood again. How do you think this whole issue of impeachment, and now we have a new deputy president, will change the political landscape in the country?
The political landscape will change in two ways. Number one, the person who has been impeached, you may have removed him from office. You may have made sure that for the next 10 years, he will never occupy public office. But you've not shut his voice. He will continue speaking. And there are people who will listen. To what extent he will shape the politics of where he comes from. Because he has consistently said, I have been kicked out because I was promoting the agenda of my people. And my people were naive, or I led my people in entering into a government without signing an agreement. Whereas others signed an agreement that was secure and was able to bank for them a certain return. Me and my people, we just walked in on the belief that this administration will honor the agreement, the gentleman's agreement. So he will leave that. He has left that office, but he has a voice, and people will listen to him. And now he's not confined because he's in office not to say anything. He can say whatever he wants to say, and he will say things that people may believe. How much damage the things he will say will have on this administration in terms of its ability to get votes in that area is an issue that we need to ponder. Probably the plan B for this administration is that probably we don't need that region to secure the next election win. We need to look elsewhere. So consequently, how will the politics of the country now shape? Because we have always had politics where politics advances social, economic, and political interests. If I'm not getting anything from your area, probably I may not be able to have so much focus in promoting certain economic agendas, social agendas in your area, because I am very sure I'll not benefit. So probably will be a shift in how government allocates resources, how resources are promoted, and that will definitely continue to fracture this country or continue to disorganize our politics. So the responsibility of the deputy president right now is to make sure that does not happen. The unity that they have spoken about today is reinforced, is strengthened, and remains strong till 2027.
Yes, and let me go back to the speeches. And the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and also the head of state has talked about that the systems that we have are working, and indeed they are working. If you look at what happened in terms of the impeachment from the National Assembly to the Senate and now to the corridors of justice, and it's a clear testimony of how efficient our systems can be. And a few Kenyans have pointed out, if that is the kind of efficiency that we are going to be experiencing in terms of service delivery, this country could be a few years ahead. And they pointed out, if at all this whole exercise was very efficient and up to the letter, that is the same way should cascade down to the services in terms of health, in terms of our security, in terms of access to jobs for our youths.
Well, the efficiency that we have seen in the last 20 days, because this whole process began on the 9th of October, and today is the end. So those are 20 days or 21 days, is remarkable. And we wish that the Senate, the National Parliament, the other arms of government would work with such efficiency in addressing the Kenyan issues, the issues that matter to us. KITHURE Kindiki today will go home as deputy president. His family is happy. He's a proud man. He has been bestowed with the second highest office in the country. He's happy. But will the issues that bedevil the people of Tharaka Nithi change today? Will the issues that bedevil the people of Luo Nyanza change today? Will the issues that bedevil Nairobi or the whole country in terms of health, education change today? No. We want real change. We want change that can be felt, tangible, because it is 2 years since the administration took office. And you cannot tell me that all this has failed to be tangible because of Gachagua. We were promised things which were not felt then, but now we're supposed to feel them. By 2023, we should have started feeling some impact of this government administration. By 2024, we should be now seeing the fruits not much fruits, but just some fruits of this administration, so that by 2027 or 2026, we can now have the confidence to say that this administration, whatever they promised, even if it's not 100% they have delivered, but whatever little they have delivered has proved to be the reality. You may promise 10 things, but maybe you deliver one, and that one is what will give people hope. When Kibaki came in, he promised free education, and he followed it through, despite its challenges. And you can recall, even up to 2006, 2007, the whole free education agenda was able to really touch many lives of Kenyans in terms of, despite all these challenges we have had as a country, the fact that we have accessing free education was very close to the people of Kenya. So we need this government to also have something that we can hold dear. Despite all the noise and the fights and the ugliness of the impeachment and all that, what can we hold dear as a country that come 2027, we can say, yes, this administration tried 10 things, but was right on one.
The professor is an astute politician. He's also a distinguished scholar as well. And to be honest, there are political landmines that he should avoid, and especially now that he has the second most powerful seat in the country. What are some of the loopholes and some of the landmines that the good professor should avoid?
You know, when you say astute politician, I think you are comparing that person with Raila Amolo Odinga or Kalonzo. These are people with political parties that have been there, that are able to bring 20, 30 MPs, 100 MPs in any general election.
Yes.
That is what we call politicians in this country, an astute politician. So therefore, we cannot put Kindiki in that space. Kindiki is a scholar, is a legal mind, he's a career, he's a public servant, but politics or politician, I think that's when we need to protect him from putting that kind of title to him, because he may not be able. He comes from a community with a very small vote. How much it can influence the larger Meru or the larger Embu or the larger Kikuyu is the task he has ahead of him, because that is the political capital he's supposed to bring 2027. Right now, he's got a ticket to be deputy president without any baggage of saying, I have 47% of the vote in this government. But come 2027, for the re-election of this administration, that is the political capital he needs to deliver. And how he will be able to cultivate that over the next 3 years is his biggest hurdle, while still remaining committed to his values of public service, because he has clearly demonstrated he's a good public servant. While in Senate, while in as a cabinet secretary, he has clearly shown he's a committed public servant, which is very good. But can it now mix with being a political mobilizer? Can it be the same as bringing unity in the country as a politician? How we'll be able to deliver that is the question. That is a mountain he needs to climb over the next 3 years. And
actually, why I say it is an astute politician, you know, you don't just rise the ranks to a deputy president and also become the Senate deputy and also become the majority leader. And away from that, I'm looking at the office of the DP. The new constitution, you do remember President Moi stayed for almost was it 18 months without a deputy?
Yes.
And yesterday, the court pronounced themselves and said that that office cannot be vacant. That's just how spells out how progressive our constitution is.
Well, the one thing that this constitution is very clear is that we need not to allow any vacuum, because vacuums can be abused. The president was very clear that the office of the deputy president is my assistant. And he said in his speech that I have been lonely. I have been the only spokesperson of this government. I have been the only person who is able to communicate, articulate the policies of government. I want somebody also to come and assist me, speaking to the challenges of this government in terms of communicating its policies. And therefore, that vacuum, if it was left here for 2 months, you could have seen the struggle that this administration would continue to experience. And therefore, we don't want any office to be left vacant for a very long time. For example, we still have a ministry which has not been filled of gender, and now we have another ministry that is still less vacant of interior. So those offices need to also be filled very fast. Yes.
And how should should be his demeanor in office? Because on the other side of this coin is that there are people who are arguing that last year we lost over 70 people when he was Interior Cabinet Secretary. During the Gen Z, we lost about 70 people as well during the maandamanos. And they say that this is somebody whose hands are tainted, that he shouldn't be the deputy president. How should he reconcile the two people, those who are for him and those who are against him?
Well, he has always said that he is not the commander of the police service. The command is led by the IG, and whatever the police service did is the responsibility of the commanding officer, who then resigned, and we have a new IG. To what extent he will take that responsibility, we will probably see with how he pronounces himself going forward on issues of public policy when such things happen. The issues of, for example, the abduction or the illegal arrest of people is something we need also to him as the chair of the subcommittees in the cabinet, and also part of the security machinery in government, to be able to also address, because he's a lawyer and he's a human rights lawyer. He went to the ICC, he understands the international law in terms of the human rights, he knows the human rights law in Kenya. We expect him now that he has now a new office that removes him from direct control of the police and the machinery of the police, to be able to be a voice of reason in terms of bringing the sense of human rights. And you've seen one of the Gen Z saying, police should stop using those crude weapons in managing riots, because if they hit you with that crude weapon, you are permanently disabled. So we need to see some changes probably. Now that he was there for 2 years, he has a better understanding of the kind of reforms we need to bring.
As a principal assistant to the president, like us to look at the president, because I believe now his work is well cut out. Why is that? He's talked about for the last 2 years he has not been able to drive the government's agenda. We know very well it's because of the issues that he had with his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. I do remember during the Gen Z maandamanos, we saw that after that he cleaned out his cabinet. Of course, there are some who came back, including Professor KITHURE Kindiki. So the head of state now has everything. He has all the pawns now that he can be able to move. So all eyes will be on the president and his new deputy, Ebra K, as he has called him.
We need to understand that the Gen Zs did not go to demonstrate because of Gachagua.
Poor governance.
They put because of poor governance. And the consequence of that was the dissolution of the entire cabinet, without removing the prime cabinet and deputy president. So the challenges of this administration for 2 years was a weak cabinet, and they brought in a new cabinet. Unfortunately, as they brought in a new cabinet, they also carried the headache of deputy who is probably divisive. Okay? To what extent that divisive DP had contributed to the failure of the initial cabinet, we may not know. But now that we don't have Gachagua, we don't have the old cabinet. Can they deliver? That's the only thing we expect from them. Because they cannot blame Gachagua, neither can they blame the old cabinet that was removed. We have a new cabinet, we have a new DP, and we have the same president who has said, I struggled for 2 years. This time around, he has nothing to say I'm struggling about. Yes.
And I know the court case now has, the impeachment court case that is currently at the High Court has lost some juice because, of course, we now have a new deputy president. Yes. What some of the options that the DP could be, the impeached DP?
I think for him, he just needs to, let him allow the whole process to be concluded. If he's found that his rights were abused by the whole impeachment process, the court might be able to give him some relief of some sorts. To what extent that relief may reach him being restored as a deputy president, I don't think that is possible. We already have a deputy president who is in office, sworn in by the judiciary, so I don't see the judiciary contradicting itself. The pronouncement that the jury might give may give him some relief, or might find truly that the process was right. And if the process was right, then politically he's in terms of the public service, he's finished for the next 10 years. in terms of a voice that can be heard by Kenyans. He can continue expressing his voice, and he can do other things other than holding a public office. Politically, let us see. He still has a few friends here and there. You saw in Parliament people who stood with him. I am very sure there will be consequences in Parliament, and those people will also want somebody they can work with, and probably the Deputy President will be their ally, both inside and outside Parliament. And
as a governance and political analyst, can you say the Constitution has won? Because even in that speech, they have both mentioned, that the President and his new deputy have mentioned that we indeed are in a progressive country. We have a very good constitution where anybody can be exactly what he wants. As we wrap up.
Well, as I said, and I've always said, this constitution is a progressive document, is a document that is alive, it is still growing. There are small areas here and there we are realizing we need to do some panel beating, but it's a progressive document, and we must congratulate ourselves as a country that we have a document that is able to pick an issue, deal with it conclusively, and restore hope to our country. Because 20 days ago, we did not see this happening. And now this has happened. And we allowed the whole process, both the parliamentary, the political process to continue, the judicial process to continue. And now today we have a Deputy President who has been rightfully sworn into office. And we look forward now in the month of November, going forward, for those two gentlemen to be able to work together in leading this country forward.
My director, Fadhili, informs me that we are out of time, but I'll give you 30 minutes to make your closing statement.
I just want to wish Professor Kindiki all the best, and I call upon Kenyans to remain united, and we pray that this administration will stop struggling with the issues of governance and be able to provide leadership and direction to this country. We have a lot of challenges, and we pray that by 2026-2027, these challenges will be behind us, and we'll be seeing prosperity and progress in our country.
Engineer Crispus Wadimba, who is a governance expert, putting things into perspective of what we've just witnessed at the KICC. The swearing in, we have a new Deputy President in office, none other than Abraham KITHURE Kindiki. Thank you indeed so much and many thanks for keeping us company since we began in the morning. We started with the Swahili crew of Akina Kamche Menza and Nancy Onyancha and their panel of experts. And thank you indeed so much, including those colleagues who are on the ground, the likes of Giverson Maina and Abdi Aziz, who is in Moyale, and Anboro, who is in Mombasa. More of this in our subsequent bulletin. My name is Bentro Enjoy. Byron Abuli has been our sign language expert on the bottom right of your screen. We're making time for lunchtime news.
UFAA. Receive, safeguard, reunite.